So Chris stopped me and said, "I've heard enough, Fred." He goes, "You're describing zero manipulation." He goes, "Z words are so visually powerful." I go, "Oh, that's cool. I like that." And then he said, "Have you ever seen a jackalope?" And I go, "Well, I've seen them stuffed in cowboy bars in Dakota. What does that have to do with anything?" And he goes, "Well, an animal that's obviously been messed with next to zero manipulation." So it became t-shirt design. A couple years later, we always make carignan to blend with our zins, because I like the spiciness, I like the complexity that blended Zinfandels have over 100% zin. And we're getting our fruit from this ancient, I mean, it's like 100-year-old little block up in the hills, and the property got sold. The person owned it, died off, the kids didn't want the property, so they sold it to some, trust funder, and they were going to rip out the carignan. So it was the last crop, and it's like the vines knew it. They gave us this bumper crop of this old vine carignan. So I had 4 barrels after blending that left, and it was pretty tasty. And I go, "I'll bottle this up." So we bottled it, had about 100 cases. And then at the last minute, I realized I wanted to sell it at our big event weekend, Passport Weekend, which is actually next Saturday and Sunday.
You didn't get much this time. Sorry.
Oh man, just a sniff. Can I sniff the cork? That's enough. So I went to Chris, and I said, "Chris, I have this wine, I want to sell it at our event." And he goes, "No problem, I did your other labels. When do you need it?" And then it was like less than 3 weeks away. And I commented on the shortest time to do this. I apologized for my procrastination and said, "Hey, can you come up with something?" And he thought for a little bit and said, "Hey, what would you say if we put the jackalope and called it zero manipulation?" So that's how it became a wine label. And I thought, "Oh yeah, it's just a one-shot deal." But people came back after we sold all of the 100 cases. "Hey, when's the next zero coming out?" So I'll abbreviate my Shaggy Dog story here a little bit. In 2000, when Gallo dropped all their growers, I met Alvin Tolini. My first vineyard job back in '74 was for the Fry family further up the valley from Alvin's. Well, Alvin was a teenager. He hung out with the younger Fry kids. We'd come over and drink beer, and we'd go deer hunting and stuff. And when I learned that he had no home for his fruit, I thought, God, I love old vine carignan blend. So since 2000, it's always been Tolini Vineyard. We came up. Mendocino doesn't get much respect either, so we came up with this little seal on our Mendocino wines that says Mendocino. Sangiovese, one of the widely planted grape in Italy, very ancient grape. Supposedly, the name Sangiovese translates from ancient Etruscan to blood of Jove or Jupiter. This is fruit every bit as ripe as our Zinfandels and our other varieties, but I describe it, a good Sangiovese, like biting into a ripe green plum. You have fruit, but you have acidity and a tiny bit of, it finishes with a little bit of dry tannin. In most Italian wines, there are some exceptions now with the super Tuscan and these really pricey wines, but Italian wines are about having the food. They're not about necessarily awing you with their power. And Sangiovese is among that ilk. It's a little leaner, finishes with just a little bit of snap of tannins. And when you have it with foods with a lot of flavor, I mean simple foods, but with tomatoes with a little bit of chili in it, it makes the food taste better. And it's what wines like this are about. They're not about pouring and the oak and the extract doesn't come out and slap you upside the head. But I call this the perfect pizza pasta version.
We just had spaghetti last night.
And for those that don't know, Sangiovese is the main grape of Italian Chiantis, which have to have a little bit of this and a little bit of that blended in. But I planted my first block of Sangiovese in the mid-'80s at the vineyard on Lytton Springs, knowing nothing about growing